David, thank you for letting me come. Can we please talk? I just want to fix things between us.
Claire, you don't live here anymore. Say what you came to say, then go.
After a year of silence, she texted me at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Okay, I'm done having fun. I'm ready to be your wife again. I stared at those words on my phone screen for a solid minute, sitting in my dusty office chair with the afternoon light slanting through the blinds. The audacity of it. The sheer, breathtaking arrogance. Like she was announcing she'd finished binge-watching a TV series and was ready to rejoin reality. I didn't respond. My name is David Chen. No, scratch that. My name is David Walsh, and I'm a freelance consultant. That's what I tell people when they ask what I do, though half the time I'm not sure myself anymore. I analyze data, write reports, troubleshoot problems for companies too cheap to hire full-time staff. It's boring work, the kind that pays the bills and lets you disappear into spreadsheets and forget that your life is falling apart. Or was falling apart. Past tense. Because somewhere in the last 12 months, while Claire was out having fun, I'd stopped falling and started planning. The house felt different now. Our house. My house, I kept reminding myself. The mortgage was in my name. The deed was in my name. Claire had insisted on it for tax purposes back when we were happy, back when I was naive enough to think her financial advice came from love rather than strategy. I looked around my office. The walls needed paint. The carpet needed replacing. Everything needed something, but I'd let it all slide because maintenance felt pointless when you're just marking time. The place smelled faintly of old coffee and stale air, the scent of a man who'd given up on small pleasantries like opening windows or cleaning regularly. My phone buzzed again. David, did you get my message? Then, 30 seconds later, I know you're there. And finally, we should talk. I set the phone face down on my desk and went back to the report I was writing for a manufacturing client. Something about supply chain optimization. The words blurred together. Meaningless corporate jargon that paid $75 an hour. The thing is, I knew she'd show up. Claire wasn't the type to accept silence. She needed validation, needed to be the center of attention, needed to know that her actions had consequences, preferably consequences she could control. That's why she'd sent the text in the first place. She was testing the waters, seeing if I was still the same doormat she'd married 6 years ago. I wasn't. The transformation hadn't been dramatic. There was no moment of clarity, no breakdown in a grocery store parking lot. It was gradual, like watching ice form on a pond. One day you're walking on solid ground, the next you're standing on something hard and cold that used to be water. I'd spent the first month after she left crying, the second month angry, the third month numb. By month 4, I'd started planning. Not revenge, not initially, just contingencies. What-if scenarios. I'm good at those. It's literally my job. What if she comes back? What if she doesn't? What if she wants a divorce? What if she wants to reconcile? I built spreadsheets in my mind, probability matrices, decision trees, and somewhere around month 7, the planning stopped being defensive and started being something else entirely. My phone rang. I let it go to voicemail, then it rang again and again. I picked up on the 4th call. What? David! Her voice was bright, cheerful, like we just talked yesterday. You answered. I was starting to worry. What do you want, Claire? A pause. She wasn't expecting coldness. I sent you a text. Did you see it? I saw it. And? And what? Another pause, longer this time. And what do you think? About me coming home? I leaned back in my chair, listening to it creak. Through the window, I could see my neighbor trimming his hedges with mechanical precision. Normal suburban life, continuing all around me while my world had imploded and rebuilt itself into something unrecognizable. Do whatever you want, Claire. So, you're okay with it? With me coming back? I didn't say that. Then what are you saying? I'm saying do whatever you want. You've been doing it for a year. Why stop now? Her tone shifted, taking on that wounded quality she used when she wanted sympathy. David, don't be like this. I know I hurt you. I know I made mistakes, but I've had time to think, and I realize now that... Save it. Excuse me? I said save it. Whatever speech you've prepared, whatever excuses you've workshopped with your therapist or your friends or Mark, just save it. Silence on the line. I'd surprised her by mentioning Mark's name. Good. Let her wonder how much I knew. I want to see you, she said finally. Face to face. We need to talk about this like adults. Fine. Really? Sure. Come by tonight. Around 7. Oh, okay. That's great. Thank you, David. You won't regret this. I promise we can work through... I hung up. Then I sat there for a long moment, staring at the phone in my hand. My heart was racing, but not from anxiety, from anticipation. The same feeling you get at the top of a roller coaster, right before the drop. I had 6 hours to prepare. The house needed to look lived in, but not desperate, inhabited, but not welcoming. I cleaned the kitchen, did the dishes that had been piling up, took out the trash. I vacuumed the living room and hallway, not because I wanted to impress her, but because the stage needed to be set correctly. Then I showered, shaved, put on clean clothes, dark jeans, a black t-shirt, nothing special. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. Really looked, maybe for the first time in months. I'd lost weight. My face was leaner, harder. There were lines around my eyes that hadn't been there before. I looked older. I looked tired. I looked dangerous. At 6:45, I called Victor. "It's happening," I said when he picked up. "Tonight? She'll be here at 7. You need me there?" "Not yet, but keep your phone on." "Always do, brother. You sure about this?" "Completely." "All right, then. Let her have it." I ended the call and checked the living room one more time. Everything was in place. The coffee table was clear except for a single folder, manila, innocent looking. The couch was positioned so she'd have to sit with her back to the door. The curtains were open just enough to let in the streetlights, casting long shadows across the room. At 6:58, headlights swept across the front windows. I watched from the doorway as her car pulled into the driveway. A BMW 3 Series, white, less than a year old. She'd bought it 3 months ago, according to the registration I'd looked up online. Mark's influence, probably. He was a real estate agent, did well for himself, liked to show it off. She sat in the car for almost a minute before getting out. Nervous, she should be. The doorbell rang at exactly 7 o'clock. I counted to 10 before walking to the door. Slow, measured steps, building the tension. Then I opened it. Claire stood on my porch wearing a blue sundress, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, makeup carefully applied. She looked good. She'd always looked good. That was never the problem. She smiled when she saw me, a bright, hopeful smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Hi," she said. "Hello, Claire." Her smile faltered slightly at my tone. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside without a word. She walked past me into the foyer, and I caught a whiff of her perfume, different from what she used to wear, Mark's preference, probably. "The house looks nice," she said, glancing around. "You've been keeping it up." "Some. I like what you did with—" "Living room," I interrupted. "We need to talk." Her smile was completely gone now. She nodded and walked toward the living room, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I followed behind, watching the way she moved, the way she carried herself. Confident, self-assured, like she was walking into a business meeting she knew she'd win. She sat on the couch, crossing her legs, folding her hands in her lap. Perfect posture, perfect presentation. I remained standing, leaning against the door frame with my arms crossed. "So," she began, "I know we have a lot to talk about." "Do we?" "Of course we do. David, I can't tell you how much I've missed—" "Stop," she blinked. "What?" "Just stop. Let's not pretend this is a reunion. You didn't miss me. You missed the safety net." "That's not fair." "Isn't it? You left me for Mark. Spent a year playing house with him in his condo downtown. Now you're back because— What? It didn't work out? He got bored? You got bored?" Her face flushed. "It's more complicated than that." "I'm sure it is. David, please, can you at least try to understand? I was confused. I felt trapped. Our marriage had become so routine, so predictable. I needed to explore, to figure out who I was outside of being your wife." I almost laughed. The cliches were coming out in full force. "And did you figure out who you are?" "Yes," she said quietly. "I did. And what I figured out is that I made a terrible mistake. That the life we had together was what I wanted all along. I didn't appreciate it until it was gone." How poetic. Don't be sarcastic. Why not? It's about the only thing keeping me from throwing you out right now. She stood up, taking a step toward me. "David, I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm asking for it anyway. I'm asking for another chance. To prove to you that I can be the wife you deserve?" "The wife I deserve?" "Yes." "And what kind of wife is that, exactly? The kind who abandons her husband because she's bored? The kind who sends a text after a year of silence like she's been on vacation? The kind who thinks I'm done having fun is an acceptable way to ask for reconciliation?" "I know how that sounded," she said quickly. "It came out wrong. I was nervous. I didn't know how to—" "It came out exactly right," I interrupted. "It was honest. Probably the most honest thing you've said in 2 years. You had your fun. Now you want to come home. Simple as that." Tears were forming in her eyes now. Real or fake, I couldn't tell anymore. Didn't care. "What do you want me to say?" she asked. "What words could possibly make this better? There aren't any." "So that's it? You won't even consider?" "I didn't say that." Hope flickered across her face. "You didn't." "Sit down, Claire." She sat quickly, obediently. I walked over to the coffee table and picked up the manila folder. "Before we discuss anything," I said, "there are some things you need to know, some things I've learned over the past year while you were out finding yourself." I opened the folder and pulled out the first photograph. It showed Claire and Mark entering a restaurant in the city. Date stamp, 2 months ago. "This is Marcello's," I said. "Downtown? You went there on your birthday. Mark took you." Her face went pale. You've been following me?" "Not me personally, but yes, you've been followed." I laid out more photographs. Claire and Mark at the beach, Claire and Mark at a concert, Claire and Mark grocery shopping together, laughing over something in the produce section. "You had me investigated," she whispered. "I had my life investigated, my marriage, my wife, the man she was sleeping with. Is that really so surprising?" This is insane." "No, Claire. Insane is thinking you could walk back into this house like nothing happened. Insane is thinking I'd welcome you with open arms. This?" I gestured at the photographs. "This is just due diligence." She was crying now, mascara starting to run. "Why? Why would you do this?" "Because I needed to know. I needed to see it all, documented, verified. I needed proof that what happened wasn't in my head, that I wasn't overreacting or being paranoid." "You're scaring me." "Good." I sat down across from her, leaning forward with my elbows on my knees. "Here's what's going to happen, Claire. You're going to sit there and listen. You're not going to interrupt. You're not going to cry or plead or try to manipulate me with your wounded act. You're going to hear every single thing I have to say. And then, when I'm done, you're going to leave. Do you understand?" She nodded, mute. "I know everything," I began. "I know you started the affair 16 months ago, not 12. I know you met Mark at that real estate seminar you went to for work. I know you slept with him that same weekend at the conference hotel. I know you continued seeing him for 4 months before you finally left me. I know you told him you were going to file for divorce but kept putting it off because you were scared of losing half your assets. I know he got tired of waiting and gave you an ultimatum. I know you chose him." With each revelation, she seemed to shrink a little more into the couch. "I know you maxed out the credit card I didn't know you had. I know you took $15,000 from our savings account the week before you left. I know you told your mother I was abusive so she'd take your side. I know you told your friends I was having an affair to justify your own. I know everything, Claire. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment you thought you were being clever." "Stop," she whispered. "I'm not done. I know Mark started seeing someone else about 3 months ago. A paralegal from the firm that handles his closings. I know you found out 2 weeks ago when you saw them together at a bar. I know that's why you're here. Not because you realized you loved me, not because you made a mistake, but because your backup plan fell through and you needed to come crawling back to your safety net." She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. To put my arm around her and tell her it would be okay. But that part was too small, too weak, buried under 12 months of anger and betrayal and cold, calculating fury. "So here's what happens next," I said, standing up. "You're going to leave. You're going to go back to whatever hotel you're staying at. And tomorrow you're going to call a divorce attorney. A real one this time, not the friend of a friend you've been texting for advice. And you're going to file for divorce. You're going to ask for exactly nothing in the settlement except your personal belongings and your car. And I'm going to agree. And in 6 months, maybe less, we'll be done with each other." "David, please." "I'm not finished. If you try to contest anything, if you try to ask for alimony or a share of this house or anything beyond what I just specified, I will release every single piece of evidence I have to everyone you know. Your mother, your friends, your coworkers, Mark's coworkers, his clients, everyone. I will make sure the entire world knows exactly what kind of person you are." "You wouldn't." I smiled then, cold and humorless. "Try me." She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Maybe she was. The David she married would never have done this. That David was weak, accommodating, desperate to please. That David died the day she walked out. "I never meant to hurt you," she said quietly. "Yes, you did. You just didn't think there would be consequences." She stood up slowly, unsteadily, like she was drunk or shell-shocked. "I should go." "Yes, you should." She walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "For what it's worth, I really did love you, once." "Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't try to make this poignant. Don't try to make it mean something. You loved me the way a child loves a toy." until something shinier came along. That's not love. That's convenience. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Then she turned and walked out, closing the door softly behind her. I stood there in the living room, listening to her car start, listening to it back out of the driveway and disappear down the street. Then I sat down on the couch, in the exact spot where she'd been sitting, and let out a long, slow breath. Round 1 was complete, but the night was far from over. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to Victor. Phase 1 complete. She's gone. His response came immediately. How'd she take it? About as well as expected. Moving to Phase 2 tomorrow. You sure you want to keep going with this? I looked at the photographs still spread across the coffee table. Claire and Mark, frozen in their happiness, in their betrayal, completely unaware that their perfect little affair was about to become a nightmare. I'm sure, I typed back. Because this wasn't about getting Claire back. It never was. This was about making sure they both understood the cost of their choices. And I was just getting started. Before we go any further, hit the hype button, take a second to subscribe and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I didn't sleep that night. Not from regret or second thoughts, but from planning. I sat at my kitchen table with a notepad, mapping out the next steps like I was preparing a business proposal, which in a way I was, the business of revenge. Mark Donovan was 36 years old, never married, no kids. He'd been selling real estate for 8 years and had built a decent reputation in the luxury home market. His office was downtown in one of those modern glass buildings that looked impressive but had terrible climate control. He drove a Lexus, wore expensive suits, and had the kind of smile that probably closed a lot of deals with bored housewives and divorced men looking for downtown condos. I knew all this because I'd spent the last 6 months learning everything about him. People think revenge is about rage, about acting in the heat of the moment. They're wrong. Real revenge is cold, it's methodical. It's about knowing your target better than they know themselves and finding the exact pressure points that will cause maximum damage. For Mark, those pressure points were his reputation and his career. Real estate agents live and die by their image. One wrong move, one scandal, one hint of impropriety, and suddenly clients start going elsewhere. It's a business built on trust, and trust is the easiest thing in the world to destroy. At 6 a.m., I made coffee and reviewed my notes. Victor would meet me at 9. We had surveillance to do, patterns to confirm. Mark was a creature of habit. I'd established that much already, but I needed to be absolutely certain of his routine before I made my next move. My phone buzzed, a text from Claire. Can we please talk? I didn't sleep at all last night. There's so much I need to explain. I deleted it without responding. Another text, 2 minutes later. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But please just give me 5 minutes. Let me explain everything properly. Delete. Then a third. I'm not giving up on us, David. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Please. I turned off my phone. At 8:30, I showered, dressed in dark casual clothes, and grabbed the camera equipment I'd bought for exactly this purpose. Nothing fancy. A decent DSLR with a telephoto lens, the kind any hobbyist photographer might own. Completely legal, completely normal. Victor pulled up at 9 sharp in his beat-up Ford F-150, rust around the wheel wells, a support local business sticker peeling off the rear window. He was wearing his usual uniform of worn jeans and a mechanic's shirt with his name embroidered on the pocket. Morning, he said as I climbed into the passenger seat. Morning. You look like hell. Didn't sleep. How'd it go with Claire? Exactly as planned. She's confused, hurt, probably talking to her friends right now about what a cold bastard I've become. Victor pulled away from the curb, heading toward downtown. And Mark? Today we confirm his schedule. Then tomorrow we start the real work. You know I'm with you on this, right? Whatever you need. I know. Victor had been my best friend since middle school. We'd played basketball together, got drunk together for the first time on stolen beer when we were 16, stood up at each other's weddings. When Claire left, he was the one who showed up at my house every day for a week, not saying much, just making sure I ate and didn't do anything stupid. He'd offered to beat up Mark back then. I'd declined. This was better. We parked 3 blocks from Mark's office building, in a spot with a clear view of the parking garage entrance. Victor bought coffee from a nearby shop while I set up the camera. We settled in to wait. You ever worry you're taking this too far? Victor asked after a while. Every day. But you're going to do it anyway. Yes. Why? I thought about that, because she thought I was nothing, thought I'd just roll over and accept it, that I'd be there waiting whenever she decided to come back. I need her to know she was wrong, need them both to know. Fair enough. At 9:47, Mark's Lexus pulled into the garage. Silver, current year model, vanity plate that read, "Sold out." Subtle. "There's our boy," Victor muttered. I snapped a series of photos through the telephoto lens. Mark getting out of his car, checking his phone, adjusting his tie. He looked tired. Good. We followed the same routine for 3 days. Mark arrived at work between 9:45 and 10 picture each morning. He took lunch at various restaurants, usually with clients. I could tell by their body language, the way he showed them listings on his tablet. He left work between 5:30 and 7 out, depending on whether he had evening showings. He lived in a condo complex on the east side, 4th floor, corner unit with a balcony. On Wednesday evening, I watched him come home, order takeout, and spend the rest of the night inside. No visitors, no calls I could see, just another lonely real estate agent at the end of another long day. On Thursday morning, I made my first move. Mark's website was professionally done, but not particularly secure. It took me less than an hour to find the contact database and another 30 minutes to access his client list. 347 names, email addresses, phone numbers, and notes about their property searches. I didn't download anything, didn't leave any trace, just memorized the structure and logged out. Then I created a new email account using Mark's name with a slightly different domain, markdonovanrealty.net instead of markdonovanrealty.com. Close enough that most people wouldn't notice the difference. I crafted a simple message. Dear valued client, I wanted to personally reach out regarding some important changes to my business practices. Over the past year, I've been involved in several transactions that I'm not proud of, including misrepresenting property conditions and failing to disclose known issues to buyers. I'm writing to apologize and to let you know that if you purchased property through me in the last 18 months, you may want to have it independently inspected. I take full responsibility for my actions and understand if you wish to seek legal counsel. Sincerely, Mark Donovan. I didn't send it. Not yet. This was just the draft, the weapon I was forging. The timing had to be perfect. Instead, I turned my attention to Mark's social media presence. He was active on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, posting regularly about new listings, market trends, and the occasional personal photo. His LinkedIn had over 1,000 connections, colleagues, clients, other professionals in the real estate and mortgage industries. I spent Thursday afternoon creating fake profiles, not obvious ones. These were carefully constructed identities with profile pictures pulled from stock photo sites, realistic-sounding names, detailed work histories. I made 5 in total, each supposedly a past client of Mark's. Then I waited. Friday morning, I met Victor at a diner near his garage. He slid into the booth across from me, ordered black coffee and eggs over easy. "So, what's the play?" he asked. I showed him my phone, the fake email pulled up on the screen. He read it, whistled low. "That's brutal." "That's the point." "When?" "Not yet. This is just one piece. I need everything to land at once. The email, the social media, the physical confrontation, all of it together, so he can't recover from one thing before the next hits." "Physical confrontation?" "Next week. His car." Victor grinned. "Now we're talking." "Nothing violent," I cautioned. "Just memorable." "I know exactly what you mean." We spent the next hour planning the details. Victor would handle the car situation. He had the tools, the knowledge, and more importantly, the anger on my behalf. I'd coordinate the digital assault. Between the two of us, we'd orchestrate Mark's professional and personal collapse. That afternoon, I drove past Claire's mother's house. Her car was in the driveway. I parked down the street and waited, watching. 20 minutes later, Claire came out, followed by her mother. They were arguing. I could tell from their body language, the sharp gestures, the way Claire's mother kept shaking her head. I took photographs. Couldn't hear the words, but I could imagine them. Her mother, probably defending me, asking Claire what she expected. Claire, probably crying again, insisting she could fix things. She couldn't. Saturday, I focused on the social media campaign. I posted the first review from one of my fake accounts on Mark's business page. Mark Donovan sold me a home last year. Promised everything was in perfect condition. Found out 6 months later there was a major foundation issue he knew about and didn't disclose. Cost me $30,000 to repair. Buyer beware. The post was subtle, believable, the kind of thing that happens in real estate often enough that it wouldn't immediately seem fake. I set the other fake accounts to post similar reviews over the next week, staggered so they wouldn't all appear at once. Sunday morning, Claire showed up at my house again. I watched her from the window as she sat in her car for 10 minutes, working up the courage to knock on the door. When she finally did, I didn't answer. I just stood there, on the other side, listening to her call my name. "David?" I know you're in there. Your car's in the driveway. Please, just talk to me for 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Silence. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about the divorce, and I can't accept that. I won't. We made vows, David, for better or worse. This is the worst part. This is when we're supposed to fight for each other. I almost laughed. Now she wanted to honor her vows? I'm not leaving until you talk to me, she said, her voice taking on a stubborn edge. I opened the door. She stepped back, surprised. Oh, hi. You need to stop coming here. No, I don't. This is my home, too. Legally, I still have a right to. Actually, you don't. I had the locks changed 2 weeks after you left. You have no legal right to enter this property without my permission. Her mouth opened, closed. You changed the locks? Was I supposed to leave them so you could come and go as you pleased? Take whatever you wanted? I wouldn't have. You already did. $15,000, remember? She flinched. I needed that money. For what? Your new life with Mark? How'd that work out for you? That's not fair. Nothing about this situation is fair, Claire. That's the point. Why are you being so cruel? This isn't like you. You're right. The old David would have taken you back by now, would have forgiven you, convinced himself it was his fault somehow. But the old David is gone. David, go home, wherever that is now, and don't come back here unless you're served with divorce papers. I closed the door in her face and walked away, ignoring her knocking, ignoring her voice calling after me. After 5 minutes, she gave up. I heard her car start, heard her drive away. My phone buzzed. Victor, everything set for tomorrow night? Me, ready when you are. The pieces were moving into position. By this time next week, Mark Donovan's life would be in shambles. His reputation would be destroyed, his business crumbling, his personal life exposed, and Claire would be watching it all happen, realizing that her backup plan had been built on quicksand. But I wasn't satisfied yet, because taking down Mark was only half the equation. Claire needed to understand the full extent of her mistake. She needed to feel the walls closing in, needed to watch as every comfortable assumption she'd made about her life fell apart. I spent Sunday evening going through the evidence I'd collected over the past months. Bank statements, credit card bills, text message logs that I'd recovered from our shared phone plan before she'd switched carriers. Every piece of documentation that proved her affair, her lies, her calculated betrayal. Then I packaged it all into a clean professional folder, labeled it, set it aside for the right moment. Monday morning, I went to work like normal. Sat at my desk, opened my laptop, pretended to care about supply chain optimization and quarterly projections. But my mind was elsewhere, counting down the hours until Monday night. At 7 p.m., Victor texted, I'm in position. At 7:15, I drove to Mark's condo complex and parked where I could see his designated spot. His Lexus was there, gleaming silver under the parking garage lights. At 7:30, Victor sent another text. Done. Getting out of here. I waited another 5 minutes, then drove away. The next morning, I woke up early and checked the local news. Nothing yet. I made coffee, ate breakfast, kept refreshing my phone. At 8:47 a.m., Victor called. Turn on Channel 7. I grabbed the remote, flipped to the local news station. There it was, a reporter standing in front of Mark's building, morning traffic visible behind her. Vandalism was discovered early this morning when the owner went to leave for work. Police say the vehicle was spray-painted with profane messages and all 4 tires were slashed. The owner, a local real estate agent, says he has no idea who might have done this or why. The camera cut to a shot of Mark's car. Someone, Victor, had painted liar across the hood in large red letters. The tires were flat, rubber shredded. It looked exactly like the work of an angry ex or a disgruntled client, which was precisely the impression we wanted to create. I watched Mark give an interview, his face tight with anger and confusion. I don't understand why someone would do this. I've never had problems with clients. I run an honest business. This feels personal, but I can't imagine who... The reporter cut him off. Are you aware of several negative reviews that have appeared on your business page over the past few days? Mark's expression changed. What reviews? Several former clients have posted complaints about undisclosed property issues. Are these related to this incident? I don't know what you're talking about. What reviews? The interview ended, cut back to the studio anchors discussing the incident. I turned off the TV and sat there, coffee cooling in my hands. It was starting. The carefully constructed life Mark had built was beginning to crack, and I was the one holding the hammer. The legal proceedings dragged on for weeks. Mark's defamation lawsuit was dismissed in early December. The judge ruled that truth is an absolute defense and that I'd provided sufficient documentation to prove every claim I'd made. Mark's attorney tried to argue emotional distress, but the judge wasn't sympathetic. Mr. Donovan's distress appears to be a direct result of his own actions being exposed, she said from the bench. This court will not reward someone for being publicly held accountable for their behavior. Mark had to pay my legal fees, $3,000 he probably didn't have. Claire's divorce filing went exactly as Robert predicted. She dropped all demands for alimony and property division. We split our personal possessions. She took her clothes, some furniture, kitchen items she'd picked out. I kept the house, my business equipment, our savings. The marriage was officially dissolved on December 20th. I was a single man again at 36, bitter but free. Victor threw me a divorce party at his garage. Just the two of us, beer and pizza, sitting in folding chairs surrounded by tools and engine parts. "How you feeling?" he asked. "Like I just finished a prison sentence? Good prison or bad prison? Is there a good prison?" He laughed. "Fair point. So what now? You going to start dating again? Get back out there?" "Eventually, maybe. Right now I just want to exist without drama." "That's reasonable. You've earned some peace?" "Have I? Sometimes I wonder if I've just earned isolation." "What's the difference?" "Peace is chosen. Isolation is inflicted." Victor took a long drink of beer. "You're getting too philosophical for me, man, but I get what you're saying. You pushed everyone away to get your revenge. Now you've got to figure out how to let people back in." "If I want to let people back in." "You do. You're just scared." He was right, of course. The past year had taught me that people were capable of extraordinary betrayal, that love could transform into indifference, that trust could shatter irreparably. Opening myself up to that possibility again felt impossible. But sitting alone in my house every night, eating microwave dinners and watching television I didn't care about, wasn't sustainable either. "Maybe I'll get a dog," I said. "A dog?" "Yeah, something that won't cheat on me or lie to me, just unconditional loyalty." "Dogs are good. You should do that." I did. After the new year, I went to the animal shelter and adopted a 3-year-old German Shepherd mix named Duke. He'd been abandoned by his previous owner, left at the shelter with no explanation. We understood each other perfectly. Duke and I fell into a routine. Morning walks, work from home while he slept under my desk, evening walks, dinner, TV on the couch with him sprawled across my lap. It was simple, uncomplicated. For the first time in over a year, I felt something approaching contentment. January passed, then February. The viral videos faded from social media. New scandals emerged to capture public attention. Slowly, mercifully, people forgot about me. I ran into Mark once, in March, completely by accident at a Home Depot. We were both in the lumber section. He saw me first, went stiff, then turned and walked the other direction. The restraining order had expired, but neither of us wanted to test what would happen if we actually spoke. I heard through Victor, who heard through his girlfriend, who heard through her hairdresser, that Mark had left town, moved to another state to start over, some small city where no one knew his name or his history. Good. He'd become someone else's problem now, or better yet, learned his lesson and become no one's problem at all. I never heard anything about Claire. She'd vanished completely, probably doing exactly what she said, starting over somewhere new where the videos hadn't reached. As spring arrived, and with it, a strange realization. I was okay. Not happy, exactly. Not the way I'd been happy before, when ignorance and trust had made life simple. But okay. Functional. Moving forward instead of just surviving. My client base had actually grown. Some potential clients had been put off by the scandal, but others saw my revenge as evidence of thorough research and attention to detail. Well, if you can destroy a man that completely, one CEO told me, you can probably optimize my supply chain. Dark humor, but the checks cleared. I started going to the gym, started cooking real meals instead of relying on frozen dinners, started reading books again, not self-help trash or business texts, but actual fiction, stories about other people's problems that had nothing to do with me. Duke and I took longer walks. We discovered hiking trails outside the city, found parks I'd never visited despite living here for 8 years. It turned out there was a whole world I'd been ignoring while I was busy being married and then busy being vengeful. In late April, I got a message through my business website. A woman named Sarah asking if I did personal organization consulting. She'd just gone through a divorce herself and needed help sorting out her finances, figuring out what to do with her life. We met for coffee. She was 42, had been married for 15 years before her husband left her for someone younger. She wasn't looking for revenge, she said, just help getting back on her feet. I took the job, spent 6 weeks working with her, organizing documents, creating budgets, helping her understand the financial implications of her divorce settlement. We talked about other things, too. Books we liked, places we'd traveled, the strange limbo of life after marriage. She asked me out to dinner when the job was done. I said yes. It wasn't romance. Neither of us was ready for that. But it was human connection. Two people who'd been through similar trauma sharing a meal and conversation. It felt good. We started meeting regularly. As friends, we both insisted. Just friends who understood what the other had been through. But by June, it was something more than friendship. Not a relationship exactly, but the possibility of one. And for the first time since Claire left, I found myself thinking about the future instead of just surviving the present. "You seem different," Victor said when I told him about Sarah. "Different how?" "Lighter, like you're not carrying around a boulder anymore." "Maybe I'm not." "So the revenge worked?" I thought about that. The revenge ended things. Sarah's helping me start new ones. There's a difference. "Yeah? What's the difference?" "Revenge is about the past. Moving on is about the future." "When did you get so wise?" "When I finally ran out of anger." That summer was good. Better than good, it was normal. I worked, walked Duke, spent time with Sarah. We took weekend trips to the coast, explored small towns, ate at diners with peeling paint, and food that tasted like childhood. We didn't talk about our exes unless it was relevant. We focused on who we were becoming, not who we'd been. In August, she met Victor and his girlfriend. We all had dinner at Victor's place, grilled burgers and corn, drank beer on his back patio while the sun went down. "I like her," Victor told me later, when Sarah and his girlfriend were inside getting dessert. "She's good for you." "Yeah? Yeah, she's real. Not playing games, not trying to change you, just likes you for who you are." "I like her too." "You going to make it official? Actually call her your girlfriend?" "Maybe. We're taking it slow." "Nothing wrong with slow. You've earned slow." September came. A year since Claire had sent that text. A year since everything had fallen apart and been rebuilt into something unrecognizable but functional. I didn't mark the anniversary with anything special. Didn't wallow in memories or rage at what had been lost. Just woke up, walked Duke, worked, had dinner with Sarah, went to bed. Normal. Peaceful. Okay. One evening in October, Sarah asked me about the gala. We were at her apartment, cooking dinner together, and it just came up naturally. She'd heard about it, of course, everyone had, but she'd never asked for my side of the story. "Do you regret it?" she asked, chopping vegetables while I stirred sauce. "Sometimes. It was brutal and public and probably over the line, but no, I don't regret it." "Why not?" "Because they needed to understand, both of them, that actions have consequences, that betrayal has a cost. I couldn't move on until they understood that. And now that it's done, now I'm here, with you, cooking dinner and planning a weekend trip and thinking about maybe getting a second dog. That's not nothing." She smiled. "No, that's definitely not nothing." We ate dinner on her balcony, watching the city lights come on as the sun set. Duke sprawled at our feet, content. Sarah's hand found mine across the table. And I realized something. This was what winning actually looked like. Not destruction, not revenge, not forcing people to face consequences. Just this. Peace, connection. The simple comfort of being with someone who chose to be there and meant it. "I'm glad you're here," Sarah said softly. "Me too." And I was.